Good day, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Just Fish Outdoors. I'm your host, Dale York, and I designed Just Fish Outdoors to focus on freshwater lakes and streams and to provide information, tips, and techniques, along with how-to segments for catching everything from crappie to catfish. We will also provide tips on equipment, tackle, boating, and much, much more. All of this is aimed at helping you catch more fish and have fun doing it. So join us each week as we talk about my favorite subject, fishing. They're both very capable people, and I guarantee you they can put you on the fish. That'll take us to our special segment today about people asking how to find summertime crappie, where are they located, how do you fish for them, what happens to these crappie and when we get into these 85, 90-degree water temps. And so I put a show together, and we'll focus on that. We'll talk a little bit about that today, how you can find the crappie, how you can catch them, and, hopefully it helps some folks out. Even though our surface temps can exceed 90 degrees, good catches of crappie can still be caught by keying in on offshore structure, and that's the key to this. Many of our crappie schools, they move away from the bank. They roam out in the river channels and off the river ledges and off the humps out in our main lake reservoirs. The humps, the submerged flats, especially those that are deeper than 14 foot on top. And if these humps are close to channels, that's even better. Crappie do seem to like the very top or shallowest part of the hump to feed on shad when the current is being generated from dam. Crappie then drop back to suspend off its deep sides once the turbines shut down and there's no more current. And, we talked about this a little bit last week. One of the things you really need to key on is whether the lake that you're fishing, if it has hydroelectric power or turbines, you really need to pay attention whether they are generating water or not, because just the fact that they're generating water creates current in our area lakes, and the fish will respond to that current. They will place themselves in such a location on that hump or on that ditch or in that creek channel to take advantage of that current coming to them. So you definitely want to pay attention to that. When the turbines are running, many of the crappie will become active and actively feed. When they shut the turbines off, sometimes they can be a lot harder to catch. Sometimes no current equals no fish. So, pay attention to that as well. And what you need to do here is you need to idle over the structure. You can either mark it with your GPS points or buoys, either which way you want to go. Then what you need to do is you need to move a few yards out into the open water, and then, get your rods down, get your baits down. And then what you want to do is either with your trolling motor or the wind, have it position you back into the fish, with your rods already down. And you may have to do this several times from more than one direction, but eventually you will get bit. What you want to do is make sure you're dragging the lure behind you while you move across the hump, and make sure that you feel the lure hit the bottom every once in a while. If you're feeling it drag bottom constantly, you probably need to speed up a little bit. If you're not feeling it hit the bottom at all, you probably need to slow down a little bit. And also remember, it's best too, if you look at the way a crappie is designed, if you look at the front end of a crappie, if you look at his mouth, if you look at his eyes, one of the things you'll notice is, almost all game fish, including a crappie, are designed to feed up. They're designed to feed above them. So you want whatever offering you're fishing with, you want that to be above the fish. You don't want to be below the fish or right on bottom. You want to be just above the fish. Your strike ratio will go up tremendously if you do this. Fish a few inches or a foot or so, depending on the water clarity and some other factors. But, fish above those fish, and you will definitely have much better success. The second thing you want to do is change the speed or change the lure presentation when you go through these schools of fish. Speed up, slow down, go high, go low, jig it, hold it still. There's so many things, and sometimes we really can't tell exactly what will trigger these fish, but something sometimes different will trigger these fish. Crappie suspending in hot water can be very slow to bite. And that's what I'm telling you or trying to get across to you when I'm telling you to change those tactics. Speed up, slow down, do whatever. Never try the same thing twice unless you're getting bit. And if you are getting bit, then do the same thing over and over and over again. When you spot a school on your Lowrance HDS equipment, you may have to fish that school from several different directions to get a bite. Like I talked about, a quick direction change, a direction speed, sometimes a color change, sometimes a size change. That can be so critical depending on where you're fishing. You may go to a 2.5 or 3 inch bait and catch fish. You may drop down to an 1.5 or 2 inch bait and not catch fish. So, try several different things. Don't just limit yourself to one particular presentation or one particular bait size. As the lure passes near the school, like I was telling you, either speed up your trolling motor or slow down the lure. Let the lure fall or raise the lure or even hop the lure. If you find the right combination, you will get this school turned on, and I guarantee you will catch fish. There's no doubt about it. You need to pay attention to things like the weather. Whether you're having a high humidity day, it's muggy. That's one thing with no wind or a high wind. If you're wanting to live bait fish, boy, this is a tough time of year to try to keep minnows alive. They can die quickly, and that's why I recommend a switch to artificial baits like. Let's say like a Bobby Garland 2-inch swimmer or a 2.5-inch stroller. Look for that vertical schools of suspending crappie at drop-offs down to as high as 30 feet and probe them vertically. We just got finished talking about a little earlier, one of the reports we had from 10 Killer, where, they were catching fish as deep as 35 foot. So, it just depends on which reservoir you're on. It can depend on a bunch of different factors. So, pay attention to the weather. The next thing to pay attention is wind. It's not so much critical other times of year as it is right now. A good, nice 10, 12, 15 mile an hour wind can make all the difference in the world, or whether you catch fish or you don't catch fish. What happens is that wave action can create cloudy or dingy water, and we've all seen this not only from wind action, but even from water skiers and boat wake action. If you don't have a wind condition, some of the tricks I use if the wind's very light is I may go to an area of the lake that has a lot of boat traffic on it and has a lot of wave action washing up on a bank that is close to the river channel. And what will happen is you will get a mud line or you will get a line in the water that is dingier than the surrounding water. And sometimes what these crappie will do is they will move up in that dingy water, and it just offers them a perfect place to ambush these shad when they come swimming by. And so don't overlook these windy wave washed banks that produce these mud lines and these little dingier water. It's like I said, especially if it's close to deep water. The crappie will seek these areas out. They will hang off in there and just be munching on those shad, something terrible. So always look for these, especially around the points or the banks with nearby drop-offs. And what I would suggest is you swim a wide or a chartreuse, or even throw a crankbait. Sometimes throwing a crankbait or trolling a crankbait will produce fish when some of these other methods will not produce fish. So think about that. Once again, if you're going through these areas, look at them with your Lowrance HDS equipment. Try to find what particular area in this muddy or wind blown bank that these fish are hanging in, and concentrate your efforts in that area. Another thing that can just raise really Cain with trying to catch fish is a high bluebird, high pressure day. When we get those 100, 105 degree days and we got a wind running around out there that's less than 5 miles an hour, boy, it's hard to imagine and it's hard to create fishing conditions that are any tougher than that right there. And what will happen is these crappie will seek relief from that bright light condition. They'll move to brushy cover near channel drop-offs, and from those particular areas they can find shad, or they'll move into shady areas around boat docks. If you're fishing in deep timber for these things, fish straight down into the timber. Move around very slowly. Once again, smorgasbord of baits is the way to go here. Have several rods rigged up with some different type of baits. Don't be afraid to go with a bigger jig head. You need to get that bait down there. If that bait's not in front of the fish, you sure ain't going to catch a fish. So, you may have to go to like 4 or 6 pound line. You may have to go to a quarter, 3/8 ounce head, and some of these little bit bigger bodies. In order to trigger these fish to hit, and they will hit these bigger baits, folks. So, don't be afraid to put them down there as an offering. Another wonderful way to do this, or a wonderful place to fish, is around these shaded boat docks, especially if, they're close to deep channels as well. Boy, you can really pitch, in some of these empty wells. You can come down the side of the dock that's the shadiest. You can, pitch that head up there and that jig up there and maybe let it fall 10, 12, 14 feet, and then just let it just kind of pendulum back to the boat. Sometimes that will trigger the bites. Sometimes vertically fishing for these fish, it will not trigger the strike. Sometimes they really like that pendulum effect, where you throw that jig out there and it's sinking down through there, and it gets tight with your line and your rod tip, and then it starts coming to you ever so slowly. And I can't tell you the number of times that I've been sitting on top or sitting close to a school of crappie, and I can't get them to bite by vertical presentation, but you go into that pendulum type presentation, and for whatever reason, it will turn those fish on. And usually if you can catch 2 or 3 fish out of that school, then it kind of excites the whole school, and you can catch several more of them. So, always try that technique as well, because it can be very, very fruitful, especially on crappie that are higher in the water column. Dropping pressure, well, this is just an opposite problem. When you get a cloud cover, you get a little wind blowing, pressure's going down, you may have a thunderstorm off in the distance or a rain cloud or whatever. Crappie are no different from other game fish. It really revs their motor. They get out and really start chasing the shad. They move a lot. They're very much more aggressive than what they are during high pressure, a high sky condition with low wind. All of our game fish become much more active when we get into this type of situation. You can be sitting on a school of fish in the morning where you have a high sunlight condition, low wind, then take off and go somewhere else for a couple hours. It clouds up, maybe sprinkling rain or whatever, and you come back to that approximate area where that school of fish was, and you just catch fire out of them. They can turn on that quick, especially when you get into these situations where you have a dropping pressure, you had cloud cover. The fish really get active. One of the problems is that if you're fishing open water under these conditions, the fish move much more rapidly than what they do in some cases under high sun, low wind conditions. They're actively chasing these schools of shad. They're actively feeding. So in some cases, it's harder to stay on top of them for longer periods of time than it is, if you're under a high pressure situation with a high sun. And it's kind of counterintuitive. I mean, you can find the fish and stay on top of them much easier when the high sun, but you're going to catch fewer fish as a general rule. Now, when the pressure drops and it clouds up, starts sprinkling rain, you can catch a lot of fish, but boy, it can be really, really tough to stay on top of the school or stay close enough to the school where you can cast to them. So, it's kind of a catch-22. But one of the things you can do while searching for these moving schools, you can make multiple passes over channel drop-offs or over a point, wherever you're looking for these fish, until you find them on your Lowrance HDS equipment. Then one of the things you can do is you can troll crankbaits or slow drift jigs through the school. Depending on how much wind you got, it's just kind of which one works the best. I mean, if you can find the fish, if you can stay close to them, you can catch more of them with the jigs than you will the crankbait. You cover more water with the crankbait. So if you're in an area where the schools seem to be more scattered, the fish seem to be more scattered in the school, a crankbait may be the better way to go. It can be much, much harder to stay on these fish under these conditions. But, if you just pay attention, sometimes you can tell which direction they're going by where they are as opposed to where you keep finding them. And you can really hammer them if you can get on the lake in a cloudy, mist and rain, or the pressure is dropping type situation. And the fish you catch can be pretty good size this time of year. They're feeding up fairly aggressively. They're deeper, and they're just they just can be just a little harder to find, but they are out there. You can find these fish this time of year, and you can catch these fish this time of year. We talked a little bit last week about keeping good records, and it's no different if you're trying to find crappie in August. You still need to keep good records, and the other thing that goes into play here is you got to have good electronics, like we talked about last week. And, the Lowrance HDS line or the Lowrance Elite line will give you all the tools you need to do this with. You're just going to need to spend some time doing it. It is not something that you can go out in 5 minutes and learn. But at the same time, if you can learn some of these techniques on finding these fish, you can catch fish all summer long. It's not just in the spring spawn that you can catch these crappie. You can catch them all summer long. So, pay attention to some of these things that we've talked about. Change your baits. There's so many baits out there available to crappie fish. Bobby Garland has a whole line ranging from 2.5, 3.5 inch baits down to 1.5 inches. There's couple new baits that are coming on the market that will be, I think, real players this winter. Sometimes when that water temperature gets real cold, these fish definitely like a smaller bait. But we're real excited about trying some of these off out this winter in some of the situations. Some of the new baits that Gene LaRue / Bobby Garland has come out with, I think there's going to be some real winners. But in the meantime, for the next month and a half, maybe 2 months, this is going to be the preferred technique for finding open water crappie and catching open water crappie is, you have to get out on the water and find these fish. Once you locate these fish, what kind of presentation is best going to be applicable to catch these fish? Some people like to fish with minnows this time of year. Minnows, like I said earlier, can really, really be difficult to keep alive this time of year. And that's why I really strongly recommend artificial baits. Don't confine yourself to a specific type or a specific color. Have several rods rigged up. Don't be afraid to go to 1/4, 3/8 ounce heads if necessary. If you're fishing real deep, you're going to need something like that to get that jig down there and to keep it down there. And remember, folks, crappie can be caught. You just need to try some of these tips and watch the weather. Adjust your tactics accordingly, and before you know it, voila, it's crappie for dinner. So get out there and try some of this stuff, and I guarantee you're going to catch some fish. If you need any help in selecting the ranch units, or you need some help in that particular area, set them up, or whatever you need, feel free to drop me a line. Just Fish Outdoors at justfish.com, or you can also catch us on Facebook, Just Fish Outdoors. We'll help any way we can, folks. Folks, send us an email. Tell us how you like the show or how we can improve on it. Or if you have a suggestion for a topic, which is where this show came from, let us know, and we'll try to put a show together for you that'll help you out. And, folks, don't forget, Just Fish Outdoors is available for speaking engagements and fishing seminars. If you'd like to contact us, we can certainly put a show together for you. If you'd like to know more about Just Fish Outdoors or anything we can help with, just drop us a line, justfishoutdoors at justfish.com. That's JST, folks, justfishoutdoors at justfish.com. You can also find us on Facebook at Just Fish Outdoors. That's also with a JST. And, folks, don't forget to get out and enjoy one of the many lakes or streams we're blessed to have here. Thanks for listening, and be sure to catch us next week. This is Dale York, host of Just Fish Outdoors, saying we'll catch you later.